also I would like to say nice to meet you all. Of course, I can't really see you, but it's great to be in Brazil for the first time in my life, right? Although it's a digital way, in the future we'll find another way. Today my talk is about business agility. And I have to share something with you because I know when we wrote the Agile Manifesto, we were talking about software development, etc. But for me, you know, in terms of software development, it's never about the software, right? It's always about the software itself, the product, the people, and how they use it, right? So it's sort of, you know, three entities working together. And if you just bring software very fast, you know, live, but it's not the right software, or it's not working properly, or it's not bringing the right functionality, we still are not serving the business. And I think this is where I would like to start, because for me, Agile itself is about, you know, delivering value. If you ask me very often, I say Agile is about, you know, better business value earlier to the market with a better internal quality. Because, you know, if you don't deliver the right functionality, the competition will, and you lose it. If you have too late, competition is there already, and you lose it. And if you have a lot of bugs and you have to do a lot of rework before you can proper go live, the competition will be there, and you lose it. So for me, you know, Agile has always been about value. Agile has never been exclusively in the area of software. In 1994, when I made my change, maybe I should tell you a little bit about my change, how I got there. But it's always been about, okay, how can I deliver value to my client? And, you know, the production of software, like the production of other things in one product or in one services, or something that you take together, right? That needs to go to the market, that needs to go live to help the organization forward, right? That's why we do this. And I remember that last year in 2019, in April, I think it was, I was in Indianapolis in the United States, and I was on stage. It was a conference with like, I don't know, like 1,000 people or something. And it was about business agility, and the people in Indianapolis, which for me is like, okay, this is the USA, or everybody needs to know that, you know, Agile is for the business here. They were like, so, oh man, this is so cool, because Agile in business is sort of a trend the last 2-3 years. And I always thought, damn, I do this for 26 years now, 25 years, a year ago. So I want to talk with you about agility first, you know, to make sure that we understand what agility is, because so many people talk about Agile, and in my perception, it's not where you have to be, and it's not where you can be, and it's still where you have to go, right? When I talk to people. And then this thing about business agility, because I think, you know, since we wrote the manifesto 19 years ago, things have changed, and business agility has evolved in my way of perceiving it, and helping clients to become, you know, Agile organizations. Brings me to my talk tomorrow that will be about Agile transformations, because if you want to do this as an organization, if you want to transform from being a non-Agile or a not so Agile or a little bit Agile organization to a full corporate Agile organization, that requires quite a lot of change, and it's not easy. Although Agile itself, in my opinion, is very easy, the change itself is very complicated, right? And maybe that's also the reason why I feel the urge to explain about Agile first, how I perceive it, so that we are on the same page, right? So for me, if let's take a traditional, maybe you can use the word waterfall, but let's say the traditional way of running projects is what we do. We have different groups of people that take, you know, the development process, you know, stage by stage. So people make something. Very often it's a document, right? And then they hand it over to the next group. They make another document out of it, hand it over to the next group, and this goes on. At one moment in time, it can be maybe something like software here, and goes to testers. And in this problem, in this process, we have quite a few problems here. And maybe you say, hey, you know, this is not how I work. This is from the past. I can tell you that last year I was in an organization where just this here, let's say analysis and design, took 7 steps. And I call that the analysis paralysis, right? It blocks everything. And the question is, if you look at Agile, what Agile is today, in my opinion, it's avoiding delay. Avoiding delay in any kind of way. So if you want to have a phrase about what Agile is avoiding delay. Why these days, you know, when you look at the world where we are in, the digital highway, competition is from all over the globe. When I got my first mobile phone just 25 years ago, you know, there was only one provider, you know, delivering the contracts for a mobile phone. Now I can get mobile phones and the contracts all over the place, right? So the world has changed. And with this, you know, and I'm talking about technology and innovation. And with this, what technology and innovation does is it changes, and it changes the world fast. It changes the way you work. It changes the way you can be supported in your work. And I think what technology does these days, it not only changes the way we work, but it changes business models, or even it disrupts complete business models. So until 6 months ago, I would have said, you know, the pace of technology and innovation goes up so fast, you cannot allow yourself to take 6 or 12 months time to respond to change. You have to do it fast. Otherwise, the competition will do it for you and they will be on time. And then COVID-19, we're on the digital highway here, right? So COVID-19 came in, and one of our clients, one of the clients of the Wemanity group, is a multinational company. They have a revenue of 11 billion euros annually, and they lost over 1 week. They went down with their revenue by 92%. That means they lose $1 billion every single month. So if you take months to think about, okay, what are we going to do now? That will cost you, just that will cost you $3 billion, right? So I don't like to capitalize on the sadness of the COVID-19 crisis, but it shows that, you know, I saw in the introduction movie, I saw, to predict the future. We can't. I was sort of expecting something like this in the COVID-19 area. I was thinking about the bacteria being resistant to antibiotics. No, it's a virus coming along. And it can be a technology innovation again, like the mobile phone or the internet, that disrupts the world again completely, right? So we need to avoid delay, because the moment that you have something, there is a need. If you don't bring it to the market before you know it, it's obsolete and we don't need it anymore. And you're working on something that nobody needs anymore, and you lose it. You lose your market share and you lose your existence as a company, right? You need to keep up with the changes. And in this process, and I say this because so many people say, you know, I'm agile, but then I listen and I still hear those kind of principles here, because we hand over information by documents. And if you hand over the information by documentation, what happens is you get interpretations and assumptions. And interpretations and assumptions are wrong. So that's the first problem, right? Interpretations, and they lead to misunderstandings. Misunderstandings means rework. Rework means delay, right? So you never want to have, in any kind of process, different groups of people making something and handing it over to someone else. Because if that's how we work, we bring in interpretations and assumptions. So for me, you know, it's like, Agile is about getting information at the source. If I say something and you have an interpretation, you can double check instantly. You can ask me, Arie, do you mean this? That takes seconds. Instead of writing it down in a document, sending to you, you read the document, you get your interpretations, you write the questions down, you send the questions to me, I make an interpretation of your written question, so I take an interpretation or an interpretation, and we have problems, misunderstandings. In this process, there's so much redundant work and waiting time. The inefficiency is massive. And inefficiency means delay. It's waste of time. So it means delay, right? So the second reason that we have delay. And then, you know, what we have is all those other stakeholders, because we have the business people and the development people, whoever the developers are. And then we get down the line, the marketing department that wants to say something about the product, and the legal department that wants to say something about the product, and the architecture department, and the operations department, and all those other departments that want to say something. And we're down the waterfall step number 15. And you know what happens if people see something for the first time? they reject it. That's what always happens. They will always have a comment. Comment means rework. Rework means delay. So for me, agility is about avoiding delay, nothing else. And if you look, for example, one of the other authors of the Agile Manifesto, James Grenning, he is focusing on test-driven development. Why? If we bring in bugs, the problem is we have to do rework. We have a delay, right? So better business value, so the right functionality, earlier to the market, right? So work very efficient without misunderstandings and with a better internal quality, because you don't want to have those bugs. Now, if you take that as a perception of Agile, this is how I work. This is how we do Agile transformations. You can say that Agile is an interaction concept. It's about getting information at the source. The people who own it, the people who are empowered to take decisions, whether it's business people who accept functionality, the legal people who check the legal side, the marketing people, if you maybe use the proper fonts and house colors and maybe the integration with the marketing campaign. You know, there's so many things that, so you need to make sure that you have all those people together. So it's not just about business. Okay, guys, don't get angry. Maybe you could put your laptop on mute. Thank you. Right, so this is, it's an interaction concept. This is where we are. Right, Agile, and it's not just the interaction, but it's 90% and the mindset, because you have the interaction to facilitate that interaction. A whole lot of things below have to change. You know, things like, you know, empowerment of people, documentation, standards, processes, toll gates, silos and structures in the organization. That's about transformation. That's what I will talk about tomorrow. Right, but you have to have all those people together. And when we talk about business agility, we go one step further, right? And the step further that we do is, in terms of Agile, is instead of just making the development of the things that we are in a very Agile way, so we have the proper value early to the market with a good internal quality, we are going to look at the organization and say, hey, this organization, can we be ready for this, right? And why? Because if you look at the pace of change at the moment, technology can change, and we know this, right? We've seen this all over the place. And technology has disrupted complete business models, you know, upside down. If you look, one of the things that I always like to take as an example, I was talking to the Chief Innovation Officer. It was a gentleman, he was a member of the board of a pretty big telecommunication organization, like 15,000 employees, right? So pretty big organization. And he was the Chief Innovation Officer. And I was sitting with him, we were having this talk in his room, and I said, you know, in 1994 as a telco, you were making your money with phone call minutes, right? And then in 2004, you were making your money with old school SMS text messages. In 2014, making your money with internet access. And I said to him, 2024, you don't know. And he looked me in the eye, he said, Arie, 2021, I don't know. And this was last year, a year ago that I talked to him. And this is not because the gentleman doesn't understand his profession. This is because he does. Because he knows that whatever he does with his organization, there will be an innovation, a piece of technology. There will be a brilliant idea from the competition, or something on the world will happen, you know, like we have COVID-19 at the moment, and you have to be able to respond. You have to be able to gear up, you know, to change your business model, to bring new products, you know, change products, halfway production, halfway development, you know, you have to do this. So for me, business agility is being able as an organization to maneuver in the world where we live in today. Then the question is, what does that mean if you have an organization that is, you know, able to maneuver? And that means that you are able to respond to change. Agile is for me a corporate capability to respond to change. And that change can be anything. So the client that I was just talking about with the 92% revenue drop, instantly within 2 weeks started development of a complete new environment that they needed, because they did a lot in shops. It was a retail organization and they had to move away from it. You can't, you know, you can't keep on working on the old concept. The old concept is obsolete, at least for the next 6 to 12 months. And by the time that the time is ended, you're bankrupt, right? So you need to do something. So it's being able to maneuver in all the changes that we have now, and being able to to maneuver, with high level of speed and a high level of quality, functional quality and technical quality. Now, what does it mean? And that means that, the things that I was just explaining, you have to take those out. That's number one. So if you go into development, you have to take those out. But it goes much further, right? I said, technology can change and the market can change, demand, from your customers, the competition can change, the world can change, right? Things change. But with the type of changes that we have today, what you see is that as an organization, you have to be able to, on the lower level, when things happen, change requirements. Okay, if you work agile, you can do that. That's okay. You can empower your people, right? They're in a development process. They develop a new product or a new service. Something happens, and on the requirement level, okay, this is how we work in an agile development process, right? So that's good. Okay, great. But then all of a sudden, you identify that the solution that you're working on is an obsolete solution. So it's not about changing requirements. It's about making something completely different, right? And then the change solution, it's the new solution. It is a new business model that you need to redefine, they need to define sometimes. And that means a complete new strategy. The point is, if you, in the world where we live in today, where so many organizations are in competition with you, either partially or completely, or they can come very fast. You have to understand, how can I do this? And I would like to sort of paraphrase one of my clients. We were working on an agile transformation a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. And I always ask my clients, if we go into an agile transformation, why do you want this? Don't do an agile transformation because the next door neighbor is doing agile transformation. You have to understand why you are doing an agile transformation, because the reason, the motivation for your agile transformation will define, especially in the beginning, where you transform to. And I want to give you a drawing. When we wrote the manifesto, in my opinion, it was like this, right? It was like this. So we can say, okay, here we have I call it always the agile umbrella. Here we go, right? This is agile. Here we are. And when we wrote the manifesto, there were people focusing on quality issues. I just talked about James Grenning, right? Test-driven development. There were people focusing on the efficiency. I just also mentioned the efficiency, the problem that we have in Waterfall and traditional. And myself, for example, the value was, for me, is absolutely, brilliant. For me, the value is where you need to go. Some people were focusing on pairs or individuals. Some people on, the agile teams that we know, 9 people or less. And some people like myself, large groups. Very often, I did work, with 30, 40, 50 people up to 100 people. Big, new product deliveries, MVPs, projects in the early days, right? Then you can say, okay, if you look at on the individual team level quality, there is test-driven development. There's a lot of extreme programming. On the team level, in efficiency, there's a lot of Scrum going on. You have DSDM on the value delivery. You have adaptive here. All right. So, in my opinion, Agile is not just one thing. Agile is a concept. As I said, it's an interaction concept. And depending on the problems that you have, you can have a focus, especially in the beginning of your transformation. And later on, you can choose at any moment in time where you want to go, right? And you can say, okay, we now improve the quality. Let's go to the efficiency. Let's go to the value, or do them all at the same time. And this client of mine, based in Germany, he said, Arie, I'm a tech company. And this is the point that I want to make about business agility. He said, I am a tech company. And my client at the moment is very clear. I know exactly who my client is. I know exactly who my competition is. They were in the car industry. And he said, 5 years from now, I have no clue. I have no clue who is my competition. I have no clue who is my client. Because he made in the car industry products for car manufacturing organizations. I said, will this be Google making cars? Is it still, what, BMW or Mercedes or or Chevrolet or whatever. I just don't know. He said, and this was, in my opinion, a very visionary statement. He said, what I need in my agile transformation to begin with, I need the efficiency. Because the efficiency will mean that I will get the value that I need, that I define. I will get the value that I need faster. I will save time. And the time that I save, I will use that for innovation, because I am a tech company and innovation is my lifeline. This is where I need to go. So if you take this in perspective, business agility is, as an organization, being able to the big change out there. Changes can be on the requirement level, on the solution level, can be about the type of solution, a new solution, and can be on even your business model and your complete strategy, that change. Now, how do you do this? And one of the most important things for an agile organization is that you work in this agile way, so you have the efficiency, you bring high level of quality, and you bring value. But at the same time, you use a lot of your time, much more than in the past, for innovation. If you make innovation part of your daily process, we have retrospectives, every agilist knows, and things come out, brilliant ideas come out. You can do hackathons or whatever, and you can do innovation, and not innovation as in, okay, now we're going to have 1 week of innovation. No, bringing innovation into your organization as a continuous process, where you also accept that if you innovate, that 90% of your innovations drop out. But the other 10% will help you to be able to, when there is a drastic change, a really disruptive change out there, to be prepared with a whole series of products, whole series of experience, especially if you do this, and this is very important, close with your clients, you'll be ready for the change. You can really shift fast to the next type of business model that you have. Now this sounds logical. I hope you recognize what I say. But a lot of people still have problems doing this, because if you want to work like this, you have to break down the silos in an organization. The silo for analysis, and the silo for design, and the silo for test, and the silo for development. You have to bring them together, because every silo means a toll gate. Every toll gate means a delay. You bring people and disciplines together. This is why we talk in Agile about multidiscipline, teams, multidisciplined people. Now the point is, how can you bring people? In that, we talk tomorrow about transformation, but how can you bring people there? You need to change your processes. One of the things that we talk about, for example, is if we do innovation, all of a sudden we are confronted with a proof of concept, right? A POC. We're going to make a POC. And that's brilliant, right? But if you look at the old proof of concept processes, it means that we're going to heavily analyze, we're going to design, and then we have this development process with all the toll gates, and we're late. And we have a lot of delay. And this is where we cannot go, right? We have to make sure that as an organization, we are ready. And if you read the manifesto, and I hope you did, and you look at the principles, trust people to get the job done. So if you bring the right people together, the business people who know their market, who know the technical people who can see the opportunities. You can see maybe other people, stakeholders like the legal department, the marketing department, they maybe know what's going on their side, and you bring them together. This is where you can really gain a lot of time and a lot of quality at the same time. What I would like to highlight here, I think I have I'm checking out, I think I have 10 more minutes at the max, right? What I would like to say is, if you go into this process, how can you bring people together? What is it that withholds people from the collaboration? One of the most important things is in my opinion, fear to change. So as an organization, if you can bring the atmosphere in your organization where innovation combined with the fact that if you fail, that's not a problem, but they just identified, an improvement for our organization, then we can make a step. If you can create that kind of environment where failure is not, or something goes wrong, you know, it's not something that you get punished for, but it's something that you can quickly respond to by improvements. Then we can make a step together. Where you want to go, and I just said that Agile is, for me, a corporate capability to respond to change, right? That's what we do. And the corporate capability is based on the interaction concept, where we cut out all the delays and all the misunderstandings. The next thing is, okay, how can I make sure that we have all those people together? Because if you look at this, you know, what do you have is you have all those different groups of people working, doing a bit, and handing it over to someone else. And this is where their responsibility stops as well. I remember my last Waterfall project, and I know it's 26 years ago, but I still see so many organizations applying at least some of this Waterfall, where they have steps and remote communication. I was somewhere in the middle as technical designer at one moment in time. The only guy that I talked was the only guy of 30 people that I talked to was a functional designer. He gave me a document, right? And that document I had to translate into another template, the technical design. And my responsibility was nothing else than look at the functional design, understanding the technology in the organization, and then you make a design in such a way that a developer could do something. And I thought, well, the developer can do this. I never met a developer. So I had no connection with the outcome. I had no connection with the value. So therefore, I also felt no responsibility. The only thing I did was sort of a translation. Now, if you're in this waterfall model working, and if you are, let's say you're a legal expert, right? And there comes a new product or a service. We are in change. We are in change at the moment in the world where we are. And you are in change. And there is a product coming in, new made, you know, business people and developers, you know, set together, brilliant idea. And they think, okay, now we're ready. And then the legal department comes in. And what the legal department will do, or the marketing department, or operations, or any other organization that is also a stakeholder and can stop the team from go live. What they will do is they will check or test, if you like, what the team has made. And there is such a massive difference, and this is an agile mindset thing. There is such a massive difference between I check what you did, or together we are responsible to make sure that at the end of every sprint, we are ready for production, because all the checks and tests that had to be done are done. And this means that in any kind of development, I said Agile is an interaction concept, right? In any kind of development, if you develop a marketing campaign, I did quite a lot of work in Central Europe, and in Central Europe, finding the right people, you know, especially on the IT side, is really difficult. So HR departments were very often under stress. If an organization opened a new office, you know, in a center like Bucharest or any other big city where all the companies are working, there would be stress because people would be leaving, going to that new organization because they would offer a lot of money. So there was a lot of stress always on the HR department. Recruitment campaigns, marketing campaigns, whatever you do, you know, you have to do this in an agile way, right? So you have to have those people together. All the aspects you have to understand. And this means that instead of in my position, testing your work, what you have done, being together and have a shared responsibility. What does that look like, right? And I just give it to you on the sprint level, but this is what you need to take on every level, wherever you go. Let's say that you do 2-week sprints, right? And you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? Here we go. What you need to do, and what we often do is, you know, at the beginning of a sprint, we refine, at the end, we have a demo. And what happens if you talk about something and then you see it for the first time? You don't like it. You don't own it. You don't accept it. You have most likely very good feedback. Feedback that can stop you from go live because it's not working properly. And if you do this here, and let's say then, okay, now we are ready, now it's really good, you know, and we then get the marketing department and the quality department and the legal department, you know, it's delay on delay on delay. So what you do is you bring all those people, you bring them from the beginning, and they do together a refinement, and every 2-3 days, you know, they have a, what I call a heartbeat. And this is where you have all the stakeholders together, and you demonstrate what you have made. You demonstrate what you have made. The people from the business can check, does it bring the value that we're looking for? The legal department say, hey, does it meet legal standards? The marketing department can say, hey, does it meet the marketing standards? Everybody can do is check. Operations, everybody, that's not, so instead of, you know, having this check at the end, you make sure with a couple of very short feedback loops, because the only thing that you do is you show what has been made here and here and here and here. And you have the feedback so you can adapt, you know, before the end of the sprint. And by the time that you're at the end of the sprint, it's all done. You had 4 feedback loops, everything is in place. And what we very often do is we make the last, you know, session here, we don't even have this one. We have a demo, and we make the demo into an acceptance meeting, which is not. Because you build acceptance during your sprint. Now, if you take that on the business level, if you can clear the organization from the waterfall processes, and if you are ready to do this in such a way that people can take out the misunderstandings by having face-to-face communication and getting information at the source, getting fast feedback loops to check on the value. So you verify and you validate. If you can get those 2 in, and you do that with all the stakeholders, you work very efficient. So you have extra time for innovation. You create co-ownership. So every product at the end of the sprint, you know, people work together on making sure that you are ready to go live. It's committed. It's, you know, the responsibility of being ready at the end of the sprint for production is as much as a developer responsibility, as a business responsibility, as the legal, marketing, operations, art, every other stakeholder in there. This is a different way of working. It has to be, if you want to have real business agility, it has to be combined with the concept of continuous innovation. And we all know, you know, in the way of working, we have the retrospectives where we do every sprint, you know, we check out, and the next sprint, at least we take one improvement into the next sprint to spend time on. But this is on the side of the business, and a continuous check, okay, why, and not just, oh, something has changed, now we have to do something. No, having in your process continuously a way of finding your way into innovation to whatever situation that may come, so that you are ready to respond to any kind of change. You cannot foresee everything. Like it was on screen in the introduction video, we cannot predict the future. But in these days, you have to find a way to be ready. And business agility is the way to go. Are a lot of organizations there? No, not. Are organizations getting there? Oh, yes. And I see very successful situations. COVID-19, I think, surprised everybody. It's the most disruptive change I've seen in my career of 32 years working in IT and Agile. But you can see the organizations that have the Agile mindset and, you know, can really shift gear very fast and go there. Right? So business agility, you know, there's no magic. It's not a silver bullet. There can always be a situation that you cannot handle as an organization. But the moment that you are agile as an organization, empowering people, collaborating, face-to-face communication, you can be so much faster and so much more focused on value, that your chances to survive that disruptive change are going up very high. That's what I want to say, business agility. Back to you guys. Maybe questions? I don't know what the process is because we didn't really talk about it. So I'll just go through the questions in the Q&A box, if it's okay with you. And I'll take Jack from the top down. Do you think Agile, how is it happening with the traditional methodologies, PMI, Prince2, etc.? Will one day will they be replaced by another? Okay, this is my idea, because I was last year, I was doing a talk somewhere, I think it was 2 years ago in Thailand, and they got it on a photo with me, and I made a poster out of it. And I said Agile will be the default in the future. And I think the situation in 2020 has speed up that process. If we still call it Agile, I don't know. If you look at this one here, right? So we have the Agile concept, we have the methodologies, and just, you know, we have 5 methodologies here, but they're like 20 at the moment. And every methodology has practices, like the daily or poker planning or the heartbeat. And it's in the practices that we become Agile. It's not by using the name of a methodology, it's the practices that make us Agile. And I know that more and more practices will come in. And the pace of technology and innovation will never go down, only go up. So the need to be Agile and to be this organization being able to respond is essential. And I think it will replace and I mean, especially in the type of products where we're operating at the moment, you know, and defining business models, building, you know, large infrastructures will contain Agile concepts and practices, but they will still also contain old school, traditional processes. One of the things, and I don't know if I'm totally correct, but as far as I know, the author of the Waterfall model, and I think it was first really published in 1970, said, I have a nice, in the 70s, I have a nice model here that's very good for small projects. And we all know that Waterfall has been used for massive projects with horrible results very often. Dutch government is one of the most horrible examples that I know, I'm afraid to say. So the need and the pressure to change will be high. Mark Ondes, I don't know if I pronounce your question properly, says then, and the second question, is Agile expanding in the Netherlands or in Europe? How do you see the job market for Agile methodologies? Yes, it is expanding and more, and you see also a focus on coaching. So tomorrow we talk about Agile transformations, coaching and coach certification processes. The point is, what people try to do in Agile working is adopting some of the practices that are easy to adopt. But the underlying structure of the organization, including bureaucracy, has to change to really be able, you know, to break down the silos and change the documentation standards, job roles, career paths, decision-making processes, etc. So that goes much further than just this. So the need for, you know, if you look at the umbrella, oh, here we go again. If you look at the umbrella, you know, to be able to really be an Agile organization, and people want to understand this now, organizations want to be Agile. This is your body of knowledge, and it's just 5 methodologies, but they're much more, right? This is your body of knowledge, and there is a demand for really good Agile coaches. And I'm sorry to say, but I meet a lot of people, but I don't meet so many good Agile coaches. You know, being agnostic in your Agile perspective, knowing for every problem, you know, an Agile practice that will help your client out, being helped, you know, to innovate your client forward and not implementing old habits from the past. There's a need for that. So that is expanding. More and more organizations are becoming Agile as well. Agile roles in the beginning were external roles, you know, a Scrum Master would be an external, a Product Owner would be an external. And now you see those organizations all embedded in the organization. And then coaches were external. Now you see coaches going into organizations on the payroll. So those kind of things happen and will change. So yeah, and it's expanding everywhere. And last year I traveled from China to South America. So and via Africa. So yeah. I don't know how much time I have. Just interrupt me when I lose my time, right? Because
Arie,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, we have 5 minutes.
Okay.
Let me give you one question. Of course, this question will depend on the organizational context. So, thinking in organizational actions, in your opinion, what would be some of the main enablers for Agile adoption?
Okay. Number 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, the leadership team.
The leadership team.
And the leadership team.
Wonderful.
And the leadership team. And the leadership. They have to. What people, you know, what people very often don't understand is, oh, you guys have to be Agile, right? And then I, as a manager, I stay where I am. But you need the leadership team to break down the silos, to change the standards. We talk about transformation tomorrow more in depth, but you need to facilitate the change. You need to sustain the change when it's there, and you need to work agile yourself, because if you don't work agile yourself as a leadership team, your people will not work agile for you. If you give a traditional push, you get a traditional response. So everything starts, it's a make or break with the leadership team. Second, oh no, number 6, sorry, is agnostic now, but you have another question, right?
Yeah, agnostic agile. I'm totally agree with you. I have one more question. Do you think there are dogmas that can be impediments to agile adoption?
Oh yeah. In the meanwhile, because I had my timer on, I'm trying to kill my timer. Tomorrow I will talk about the transformation, right? And what you have, if you look at job profiles, evaluation and rewarding, bureaucracy with toll gates, documentation, decision-making processes, they are so embedded in the organizational DNA. Yeah. People just can't understand that they can be changed, and those have to be changed to be an agile organization. So this is a really important one. And what you also see is, in the past, how to work was pre-described in manuals, Prince 2 manuals, PMI manuals, and every step was written down, and this is how you do it, and the input format and the output format.
Just follow without thinking.
Yeah, and the point is that what people try to, because that's the way you work, this is how it is. Agile is not like this. Yeah. Agile is continuously evolving, but people are dogmatic. So they are used to work like this, very pre-described. They have to change. And what they do is they just find another agile methodology and take that as a dogma instead of being agnostic and applying what's in and innovating, right? And I have to say that if we go into agile transformation, into Wemanity, we do international agile transformations. One of the biggest problems is people that think that they're agile, and they're absolutely not, because they don't want to change. And I think the real characteristic of an agilist is being open to change and learning, always, all the time. And this is what we need to understand. And this is where we need to go. And of course, it can all be done, but those things have to be changed. And we call that the paradigm shift. And I will talk more about that tomorrow.